My name is Nadia Brooks, and I was 34 when my aunt tried to pull $312,000 out of my grandmother's house behind her back. They called it a cash-out refinance. Grandma called me at 8:14 p.m. and said, "If Denise brings that folder back, I'm not signing anything." 3 days later, when the bank asked for a final voice confirmation, the recording grandma gave me already had my aunt saying why she wanted the money. And the worst part was not that my aunt wanted the money. The worst part was how confident she looked walking into that bank, like Grandma's house had already become a check, and the rest of us were just late catching up. Denise had her leather folder tucked under one arm. Terry had cleaned the grease from under his nails. My cousin Paul kept texting that everyone needed to stop being dramatic. Grandma sat beside me with her purse in her lap and her recorder inside it. She looked smaller than all of them, but she was the only person in that room who had already told the truth out loud. Before the meeting was over, a bank manager, a loan officer, a notary, and my aunt would all hear Grandma say no twice. Then they would hear Denise explain the real plan in her own voice. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where the loudest person in the room usually loses to the paper trail. If you like stories where paperwork does the fighting, stay with me. I need to back up. I grew up in a brick ranch on the north side of Toledo with a kitchen that smelled like coffee and furniture polish because my grandmother Ruth Brooks still polished the same table every Saturday. My mother died when I was 13, and after that, Grandma became the center of everything that mattered. Denise, my mother's sister, liked to say she stepped in after the funeral. She did step in. She also stepped over every boundary she could find. Denise had the kind of voice that made people think she was helping even when she was taking over. She could bring a casserole, ask about your week, and somehow leave with the thing you were trying to protect. Terry, her husband, owned a small auto shop on Alexis Road. The shop looked busier than it was. There were always 3 trucks half-fixed in the lot, 1 tow bill in the drawer, and some new emergency hanging over the place like a storm cloud. Denise did not shout at first. That was what made her dangerous. She arrived with a soft voice, a grocery bag, and a sentence that began with "We need to talk." She could make an order sound like concern. If Grandma said she wanted to think, Denise said she was only trying to reduce stress. If Grandma asked for numbers, Denise said she should not worry herself over details. If I asked for copies, Denise looked at me like I had accused her of robbing a church. Grandma paid the house off in 2009 after 41 years of mortgage payments and cafeteria shifts. She kept receipts in a bread box, tax bills in a biscuit tin, and every guarantee in a drawer labeled in case of stupid. She taught me to read a document before I signed it. She taught me that quick usually meant somebody else had already spent your money. By the time I was 34, I worked in fraud prevention at Riverstone Credit Union. I spent my days checking loan files for exactly the kind of family creativity that ends with an apology and a payment plan. Denise hated that job title. She called me the paperwork girl whenever she wanted something printed, and too much like your grandmother whenever I asked a hard question. 3 months before the refinance attempt, Denise started showing up with roof estimates. Then she brought a furnace flyer. Then she brought Terry, who stood in Grandma's kitchen with his ball cap in his hands and said the shop was behind on taxes and the bank was tightening up. The story changed every visit, but the answer stayed the same. Grandma's house had too much money sitting in it. At first they called it repairs. Then they called it breathing room. By the 3rd visit, it was just the house. Terry said the words like he was being practical. Nobody needs a paid-off house just sitting there while the family drowns. Grandma told him, then don't drown. Denise laughed like that was a joke. It wasn't. Grandma had one bad knee and a slower walk since January, but she wasn't confused. She heard every word. People in my family had a habit of measuring Grandma by whatever they needed from her that week. When Denise needed someone to watch her boys in the summer, Grandma was still sharp. When Terry needed a place to store extra tools during a shop renovation that never really started, Grandma was practical and generous. When they wanted her signature, suddenly she was old, tired, and too confused for numbers. That switch always made me angry, but it did not surprise me. Denise had been doing a smaller version of it for years. She borrowed Grandma's van and brought it back with the gas light on. She picked up prescriptions and kept the pharmacy reward points under her own phone number. She helped with the cable bill and somehow upgraded the package to include sports channels Grandma never watched because Terry liked having the login. None of those things were big enough to start a family war. That was how people like Denise survive. They do not steal the house first. They take the small things until everybody is used to watching them walk away with something. Grandma noticed. She always noticed. "Your aunt counts on people being too polite to add," she told me once. I asked what that meant. She tapped a grocery receipt with one finger and said, "It means she can get away with $3 for a long time if nobody is willing to call it $3. The house was not $3. It was a brick ranch with a paid-off mortgage, a dry basement, a fenced yard, and a maple tree my grandfather planted the year my mother was born. It was not fancy. It had beige siding, a stubborn screen door, and kitchen cabinets that never closed unless you pushed them twice. But it was free and clear. That made it the most valuable thing anyone in our family still had. Grandma did not call it an asset. She called it the place I paid for. She had the first mortgage statement in a plastic sleeve. October 1968. The payment was $103.42. She had the final payoff letter, too, March 2009. Balance $0. She kept both because, as she put it, some papers are proof you survived. Terry never understood that. He saw the house as locked money. Denise saw it as a solution she could dress up as care. My cousin Paul saw it as the thing that might save his father's shop without costing him anything. They all had different reasons. They all pointed to the same front door. The roof actually did need work. I will not pretend it didn't. There was a stain over the dining room window, and after a hard rain, a little water collected behind the gutter on the west side. But the first estimate Denise brought was $41,600. $6 pages, urgent language, financing box already checked. The company had been formed 11 months earlier. The registered address matched the building next to Terry's shop. Denise spread the pages across Grandma's table, like she was showing proof of a medical emergency. "See this," she said, tapping the wet spot photo. "This is how mold starts. Then it's the ceiling. Then it's electrical. We are trying to get ahead of it before it becomes something you can't handle." Grandma picked up the estimate and turned the page slowly. "Why does a roof estimate have monthly payment options?" she asked. Denise blinked once. "Because that's normal now." "Why does it say cash out consultation?" Terry leaned against the counter and gave a small laugh. "Ruth, don't get stuck on wording. These companies use templates." Grandma put the page down, still calm. "Templates do not sign themselves." I took one look at it and asked Denise if the roofers had even been on the roof. She looked offended. "You think everyone is trying to scam somebody." I said, "Not everyone." That was when Terry stopped being friendly. He said, "You work in a cubicle, Nadia. You do not understand what it takes to keep a business alive." I almost laughed. I had seen businesses die on spreadsheets long before owners admitted they were sick. Terry's shop had 2 tax liens, 1 supplier judgment, and a line of credit that had been extended 3 times. He did not need a roof repair. He needed a cash infusion big enough to hide 4 bad years. The warning signs were not hidden. Terry had stopped paying the parts runner in cash, and there was a yellow envelope from Lucas County on the passenger seat of his truck, folded once, but not enough to hide the word delinquent. Grandma listened to all of it from her kitchen chair, the recorder not on the table yet, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She looked small that day, but only if you did not know how to read her. Her shoulders were tired. Her eyes were not. 2 weeks later, they showed up with a folder, a contractor estimate, and a woman named Carla who introduced herself as the loan specialist. That was the first time I heard the phrase cash out refinance out loud. It meant exactly what it sounded like. The bank would put a fresh mortgage on Grandma's house and hand out $312,000 in cash after closing. Denise said the money would fix the roof, pay the shop taxes, and leave a little cushion. Terry nodded like a man who already spent it. Carla was friendly in the way people get when they are paid by momentum. She kept saying simple and standard and nothing to worry about. She had little sticky flags already placed on the signature lines. Yellow for Grandma, blue for Denise. No one had asked Grandma if she wanted blue flags on her documents. Grandma touched one of the sticky notes with her fingernail. "Why is Denise's name on anything?" she asked. Carla looked at Denise before answering Grandma. That was the first mistake. "Just as a family contact," Carla said. "Sometimes it helps to have someone assist with the communication." Grandma said, "I can communicate." Denise reached across the table and squeezed Grandma's wrist. "Mom, she doesn't mean anything by it." Grandma looked down at Denise's hand until Denise removed it. Grandma looked at the top page, set the pen down, and said, "I need to read this." Denise smiled too fast. "Mom, it's just standard paperwork." Grandma said, "Then standard can wait until I read it." That was the moment they stopped pretending they were helping. Denise called me that night and said I was overreacting when I told Grandma not to sign anything without me seeing it. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said. "Your grandmother trusts family." I told her family is exactly why you read the forms. Denise went quiet, and I could hear Terry talking in the background. Then she came back with the voice she used when she wanted to sound wounded. "Your mother would have understood." That sentence did what she meant it to do. It hit the old bruise. My mother had been gone 21 years, and Denise still pulled her name out whenever she needed me to feel 13 again. I said, "Do not use my mother to push alone." Denise exhaled like I was exhausting her. "This is why people don't tell you things, Nadia. You turn every conversation into an investigation." "Then stop handing me evidence," I said. 2 days later, the application landed on my screen because fraud prevention flagged family-related home equity transactions over $250,000. The requested amount was $312,000. The appraisal put the house at $487,000. The borrower line said Ruth Brooks. The authorized contact line said Denise Brooks. The income section had Social Security and a made-up note about family support from adult child, except Grandma's only child was dead. My stomach dropped before I finished the second page. There was no independent counseling certificate. The call log showed Denise answered most of the pre-approval questions. One line stood out. "She gets confused with numbers, so I'll help her through it." My first move was not dramatic. It was boring. That mattered. I disclosed the family connection to my supervisor, a man named Aaron Mills who had spent 20 years in risk review and could spot a bad file from the cover page. I told him the borrower was my grandmother and that I could not be the final decision maker. He took the file, read for 6 minutes without speaking, and said, "You can provide family context, but Louis and Maya make the call." That was fair. It also protected Grandma better than me charging into a meeting angry. Aaron flagged the file for senior review and let me prepare a timeline. I printed the application, the call log, the ID scan, the estimate packet, and the appraisal summary. The more I read, the worse it got. The email on the application was not Grandma's. It was a new address with her name and Denise's birth year at the end. The phone number listed for borrower contact was Denise's cell. The e-sign consent had been accepted from a laptop in Terry's shop, not Grandma's house. The loan purpose said home repair and family support. That phrase, family support, was not illegal by itself. It was just where people put the lie when they were too nervous to leave it blank. There was also a draft distribution worksheet attached by mistake. I do not know who uploaded it. Maybe Carla, maybe Denise, maybe Terry thought it helped, but there it was. Roof reserve, $42,000. Taxes and municipal balances, $18,700. Terry's auto care supplier payoff, $96,400. Line of credit stabilization, $112,000. Personal reserve, $42,900. The house was not being refinanced to fix a roof. The roof was the costume. The real body under it was Terry's business debt. Then I listened to the bank's recorded pre-application call. Riverstone recorded all lending calls. Customers heard the disclosure at the start. Denise must have heard it too, but people like Denise only hear warnings that apply to other people. Maya, the loan officer, asked, "Is Ms. Brooks present?" Denise said, "Yes, Mom is right here." There was a faint sound in the background, a chair sliding, Grandma coughing once. Maya said, "Ms. Brooks, can you confirm you are interested in discussing a refinance?" Grandma's voice came through soft and confused by the speakerphone. "A roof." Denise jumped in. "Yes, Mom, the roof. She means the roof." Maya asked about income. Denise answered. Maya asked about the property. Denise answered. Maya asked whether Grandma wanted to receive documents by email. Denise answered before Maya finished the question. At the 9-minute mark, Grandma said, "I want paper." Denise laughed like Grandma had made a cute comment. "She doesn't really do email. Send them to me." Maya paused. I could hear the keyboard stop. "Ms. Brooks, we can mail documents directly to your home address," Maya said. Before Grandma could answer, Denise said, "Mail takes too long. The roof leak is active." Maya asked, "Is there immediate structural damage?" Terry's voice came from farther away. "It will be if we keep waiting." Grandma said, "I still want paper." Denise's laugh came again, thinner this time. "She means she likes having copies. I can print them for her." That was when I paused the recording and leaned back from my desk. Not because it was shocking, because it was so ordinary. A woman's request got translated while she was still in the room. Her no had not even been allowed to become a full sentence. I stopped the recording there and wrote one line in the timeline. Borrower requested paper. Family contact redirected control. That sentence was not emotional. That was the point. In fraud prevention, clean sentences matter. If you write what you feel, people argue with your tone. If you write what happened, they have to deal with the file. I called Grandma from my desk phone and kept my voice flat. "Did you ask for a refinance?" She was quiet for 2 full seconds. Then she said no. "Did you tell Denise to talk to the bank for you?" "No." "Did you sign anything?" "One piece of paper for a roof estimate. I didn't know that was going to turn into a loan packet." Then she said, "I told them no 3 times, Nadia. Denise kept saying I was just scared of change." Then her voice changed, not scared, tired. "Good," she said. "I was waiting for you to call. I filled out a trusted contact form at your branch 3 weeks ago. I put your name on it. If Denise tries to move money or borrow against this house, they call you first." I was quiet now. I heard papers shuffle on her end. "I went after church because I heard one of the ladies talk about a cousin who got pushed into a loan he didn't understand," she said. "I wasn't going to sit here and wait for my own family to get bold." Then she told me she had something else. A silver voice recorder, not much bigger than a pack of gum. "Denise and Terry came by Tuesday with the contractor estimate," she said. "I put this on the counter and hit record. I wanted their own words." She drove me to tears without even trying. The clip was only 94 seconds long, but it carried the whole family. You could hear the kitchen fan, a spoon tapping a mug, and Denise talking fast enough to trip over herself. She said Terry's shop was 6 days from a lien notice, that the roof estimate could be folded into the loan, and that Grandma didn't need to worry about every line. Denise said, "Mom, nobody is taking anything from you. The house is just sitting there doing nothing." Grandma answered, "It is keeping me inside it." Terry made a frustrated sound. "That's not what she means." "Then she can say what she means," Grandma said. Denise lowered her voice. "If Nadia gets involved, this becomes a whole thing. You know how she is. She'll scare everyone at the bank and make you look like you can't make your own decisions." That part made my face go hot when I heard it. Denise had been using the threat of me to keep Grandma quiet, not because I scared Grandma, because I scared Denise. Terry said, "We just need the equity to work for the family for once." Then Grandma's voice, calm and flat, "I am not borrowing against my house for your debt." Denise came back sharper. "Mom, don't make this harder." Grandma answered, "You already did that." Denise said, "If you don't do this, the shop is done." Grandma said, "Then your shop is done." When the recording ended, nobody in my house had anything to say for a minute. Grandma had not just recorded them on a whim. She had prepared more than I knew. 3 weeks earlier, after the church service where she heard about the cousin pushed into a loan, she asked her neighbor Mrs. Alvarez to drive her to Riverstone. She did not call Denise. She did not call me. She walked into the branch with her cane, her driver's license, and a yellow legal pad with questions written in her careful block letters. What if someone asks for money from my house? What if they say I agreed, but I did not? Who can the bank call besides them? Mara, the teller at the branch, sent her to Louis. He remembered her because she had asked for copies of every page and counted them before she left. That sounded like Grandma. Louis helped her fill out a trusted contact form, which did not give me control over her account. It only told the bank who to contact if something looked wrong. Grandma added a handwritten note to the branch file. If anyone asks to borrow against my home, or move more than $2,000 without me alone on the phone, call Nadia Brooks first. Louis had scanned the note. That scan was now the thing Denise could not talk around. Grandma pulled the copy from her biscuit tin and slid it across the table. Her signature at the bottom was steady, not fancy, not shaky, steady. "I knew they were circling," she said. "I just did not know which door they would use." That sentence hit me harder than the recording. For weeks, I had been thinking of Grandma as someone I needed to protect. She had already protected herself. She had simply built the protection in a place Denise never looked, because Denise never looked anywhere boring. Bank forms, branch notes, copies in a tin. Denise wanted a dramatic family, yes. Grandma gave her a compliance hold. We played the kitchen recording again, slower this time. I wrote down time stamps. 00, 12 Denise identifies loan as roof and shop support. 00, 28, Terry says the bank will move faster if repairs are emphasized. 00, 41, Ruth refuses to borrow against the home for business debt. 01, 03, Denise pressures Ruth using Terry's shop closure. 01, 18, Ruth refuses again. Grandma watched me write. "You do that like your mother," she said. My throat tightened. My mother had been a surgical scheduler at St. Anne's. She lived by calendars, paper clips, and phone notes. Denise liked to tell people my mother had been soft. Grandma knew better. My mother was kind. That was not the same thing as soft. "Your mother would have caught this too," Grandma said. I believed her. I needed to. That night, I scanned the recorder file into the bank's secure evidence folder. I made 2 written copies of Grandma's statement and read them back to her before she signed. She corrected one word. I had written that Denise asked about the loan. Grandma crossed it out and wrote pressured. "Use the right word," she said. So I did. I drove to Grandma's place that evening with copies of the trusted contact form and the bank printout. The porch light was on. The geraniums were still in the same cracked blue pots she had used for 15 years. Grandma met me at the door with the recorder in one hand and the refinance packet in the other. She had highlighted 3 lines in yellow. One line said co-borrower assistance. Another said borrower may rely on family representative for explanation. The third had been circled so hard the paper nearly tore. No independent counsel required if borrower declines. She tapped the sentence and said, "They thought I would be too tired to see what that meant." Grandma never raised her voice unless something was on fire. That night she didn't need to. She sat at the kitchen table, folded her hands, and told me how Denise had started with the roof, then the furnace, then the shop, then the word family. It was always family when Denise wanted a signature. It was never family when Grandma asked for quiet. Terry had come by twice with a contractor who never got out of the truck. Denise had called from the parking lot to say the roof, quote, had to be done by Friday because the rate lock would expire. Denise had used the words move fast more times than a warning light. Grandma said she knew the second they refused to let her read the whole packet that the thing was not about repairs. She had heard enough from life to know the sound of a bad deal. When I asked why she hadn't told them no and sent them home, she looked at me like I was still 13. Because they don't hear no the first time, she said, so I made sure the bank would hear it. She was right. I pulled the file into review and marked it for an in-person protection check. Our policy said if an elder borrower named a trusted contact and the file showed family pressure, we had to confirm intent before anything moved. That meant a live conversation, a manager present, and no shortcuts. I called our branch manager, Lewis, and told him exactly what I had. He went quiet and said, "Bring the file to conference room B Friday at 2. We'll do this by the book." Denise texted me the next day to ask why the rate lock had been delayed. I told her the file needed one final verification. She wrote back, "Your grandmother is exhausted with all this extra nonsense." I didn't answer. Over the next 48 hours, my phone lit up with the usual family physics. Denise sent pictures of water stains on the dining room ceiling. Terry sent me an estimate with a red urgent stamp on it. My cousin Paul texted that I was taking Grandma's side like the money was coming out of my own pocket. Grandma never asked me to choose a side. She asked me to read the papers. If you're the person in your family who always gets handed the forms and told not to worry about it, you know why I stopped at that page. Keep going. The 2 days before the meeting were ugly in quiet ways. Denise called Grandma 11 times on Wednesday. Grandma answered twice. Both times Denise started with the roof and ended with Terry. The second call lasted 3 minutes before Grandma said, "I am tired now," and hung up. Denise texted me right after. "You are scaring her." Then, "This delay is cruel." Then, "Your mother would be ashamed of how you are treating her sister." That one sat on my phone for a long time. I wanted to answer. I wanted to tell Denise she did not get to use my mother as a lockpick. I wanted to ask why my mother's memory only mattered when Denise needed leverage. Instead, I took a screenshot, saved it to the timeline, and put the phone face down. Terry called from the shop at 7:42 that night. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message that started calm and ended with him breathing too hard. "This is not your business, Nadia. Ruth is my mother-in-law. Denise is her daughter. We are trying to keep the family afloat. You sit behind a desk and think every file is a crime scene. If this does not close, people lose jobs. Real people, not forms." I saved that too. The next morning, my cousin Paul sent a group text with me, Denise, Terry, and 2 relatives I barely knew. "This is ridiculous. Grandma wants to help. Nadia is blocking everything because she likes being in control." Grandma was sitting across from me eating toast when the message came in. I read it out loud because I did not want to decide for her what she could hear. She buttered the corner of her toast and said, "Tell Paul if I wanted to help, I would say yes." I asked if she wanted me to text that. "No," she said, "let him wonder." That was Grandma at her sharpest. She did not waste words on people who were already committed to misunderstanding her. On Thursday afternoon, Maya and Lewis met with the bank's elder protection specialist, a woman named Priya Shaw. Priya reviewed the file and said the same thing in the calmest voice I had ever heard. "This is not closing Friday." Lewis said we still needed the meeting because Grandma had the right to speak for herself in front of everyone who claimed to be speaking for her. Maya agreed. I agreed. Grandma agreed most of all. That night, I sat at Grandma's kitchen table, and we practiced only 3 questions. "Do you want this refinance?" "No." "Do you want a niece to speak for you?" "No." "Do you understand what this loan would do?" "It would put a new mortgage on my house and give my money to Terry." She did not stumble. She did not drift. She did not need coaching. She needed a room where people stopped interrupting her. Before I left, she pulled a small white envelope from the drawer with the "in case of stupid" label. Inside was the original payoff letter from 2009 and a note in her handwriting dated that same week. "This house is not an emergency fund for anyone else's debt." She told me to bring it Friday. "Just in case they forget what my house is," she said. She also put on the navy cardigan my grandfather bought her for their 35th anniversary. It had one repaired cuff and a small pearl button that never sat straight. I asked if she wanted help choosing something more comfortable. She said, "No, your grandfather helped me pay for this house. He can come with me." That was the closest she came to crying before the meeting. Friday came cold and bright. I wore the same dark blouse I wear when I need to look like nothing in my life has gone wrong. Louis sat at the head of conference room B. Maya, the loan officer, had the file open in front of her. Denise arrived with a leather folder and the kind of smile people use when they think they still own the room. Terry followed in a clean work shirt he had not ironed himself. Grandma came last, steady and quiet, with her recorder in her purse. Maya cleared her throat. "Before we can proceed, we need to confirm borrower intent on the record. We also need to address a trusted contact note and a missing counseling certificate." Denise laughed once. "That note is probably one of Nadia's overreactions." Louis didn't laugh back. Priya turned one page on her legal pad. "The note is from Ms. Brooks. It predates this application." Denise looked at Grandma, and for the first time that day, her face showed something close to surprise. "Mom, you went to the bank without telling me." Grandma said, "Yes." "Why would you do that?" "Because I wanted to talk without being translated." That sentence landed harder than any accusation I could have made. Maya looked down at the file. Jill, the notary, stopped clicking her pen. Terry stared at the wall like the wallpaper had betrayed him. Grandma sat in the middle of the table, hands folded. She looked at Denise and said, "I'm not too tired to know what I'm signing." Maya looked at her and asked, "Ms. Brooks, do you want to take out this $312,000 refinance?" Grandma answered without looking away from Denise, "No." The room changed shape. Maya waited the way good loan officers wait when the answer matters. She did not rush to the next page. She did not look at Denise for confirmation. She kept her eyes on Grandma and asked the second question. "Do you understand what the refinance would do?" Grandma lifted her chin. "It would put a mortgage back on my house and send money to Terry's business." Terry sat forward. "That is not fair." Priya said, "Please let her finish." Grandma did finish. "It would make me responsible for debt I did not make." Nobody could call that confusion. Nobody could call that old age. It was the cleanest explanation in the room. Denise leaned forward. "Mom, we talked about this." Grandma said, "You talked, I listened." Terry said, "We're just trying to keep everything together." "No," Grandma said. "You're trying to keep your mess from falling on your own feet." Then I set the recorder in the center of the table and pressed play. The sound came out a little tinny at first, then clear enough to hear the spoon on the mug. Denise's voice filled the room before I even looked at her face. "Once the loan closes, we'll have the roof done and the shop will breathe again." Terry answered, "Tell them the old place needs repairs. They'll move faster." Grandma's voice came in next, calm and flat. "I am not borrowing against my house for your debt." Denise again, sharper now. "Mom, don't make this harder." "Grandma, you already did that." Then Terry, loud enough to crack the little speaker. "If you don't do this, the shop is done." Grandma said, "Then your shop is done." When the recording ended, nobody spoke for a beat. Not Louis, not Maya, not the notary. Denise looked at me like I had pulled a gun instead of a recorder. Then the room started reacting in pieces. Maya closed the loan folder, not slammed it, closed it. That small sound did more damage than shouting would have. Jill slid the unsigned notary, sheet back into her folder. Priya wrote one sentence on her yellow pad, underlined it once, and turned the pad so Louis could read it. I could not see the whole line from where I sat, but I saw the words borrower refusal and coercion concern. Denise found her voice first. That was taken out of context. Grandma looked at her. It was taken in my kitchen. Terry said, "You recorded us." Grandma said, "You heard me say no and kept talking. I wanted someone else to hear it too." Denise turned to Louis. "She is being influenced." Louis folded his hands. "By whom?" Denise pointed at me. "Her." Grandma's hand came down on the table once. Not loud, just enough. "Nadia did not make me pay this house off," she said. "Nadia did not make me fill out that contact form. Nadia did not make me press record. Stop giving my choices to other people just because you don't like them." That was the moment Denise lost the room for good. Maya turned the file around and said, "We cannot proceed. The application is denied until your borrower completes an independent counseling review and confirms, in person, that she wants to continue. Given what we've heard, we are also placing an elder protection hold and sending this to our fraud team." That meant no money, no closing, no surprise wire, no way to sneak around Grandma while she was still breathing. Denise's smile cracked first. "You can't do that. We need this loan." Louis said, "We don't loan against a file that shows coercion." Terry slammed his hand on the table and said I was ruining his life over a misunderstanding. Grandma looked at him and said, "If it were a misunderstanding, you would have let me read the paper." Then she stood up slowly and said, "I am not the family ATM. I am not the backup plan, and I am not signing my name to save men who can't save themselves." Denise whispered, "Mom, please." For 1 second, she sounded like a daughter, not a strategist, not a woman with a folder, a daughter. Grandma's face softened just enough to hurt. "I loved you before you learned how to ask me for money," she said. "That is why this hurts." Denise started crying then, but the tears came too late and pointed in the wrong direction. She cried like someone had embarrassed her, not like someone had almost done something unforgivable. Denise called me cruel. Terry called me ungrateful. Grandma picked up her purse and said, "No, child." She is the first one who listened. The door closed behind them with a sound so ordinary, it almost felt unfair. I stayed behind long enough to finish the internal report. The bank froze the application, sent the file to Elder Abuse Review, and marked Denise and Terry as no contact without written permission from Grandma. Louis asked if I wanted to step out. I told him no. I wanted my initials on every page. Grandma and I left through the side door because Denise was still in the parking lot. She stood beside Terry's truck with her arms folded, phone pressed to one ear, watching the bank entrance like she was waiting for someone to come out and apologize for doing their job. She saw us and lowered the phone. "Mom," she called, "you don't understand what just happened." Grandma stopped on the sidewalk. She leaned on her cane, not because she needed drama, but because her knee hurt when the weather changed. "I understand exactly what happened," she said. "You tried to borrow from my house after I said no." Denise looked around like the parking lot might help her. "We were trying to save Terry's shop." "Then say that next time," Grandma said. Terry stepped forward. His face was red all the way to his ears. "There won't be a next time." Grandma nodded. "Good." It was the coldest word I ever heard her say. On the drive home, she sat in the passenger seat with the recorder in her lap. She did not cry. She did not rage. She watched Toledo move past the window, the gas stations, the strip malls, the pharmacy where she bought birthday cards 6 months early because she hated being late. At a red light, she said, "Your aunt was little when we bought that house." I waited. "She used to sleep on the floor while your grandfather painted the bedrooms. Yellow room first, then blue. She remembers. That is what bothers me." "What?" "That she knows what it cost and still thought she could turn it into a check. That was the wound under the money, not the loan, not even the lie. It was that Denise knew. She knew what the house meant. She knew every room had been paid for with cafeteria shoes and double shifts and my grandfather fixing sinks after work. She knew, and she still brought the folder. The bank's elder protection team called Grandma the next morning. Not me. Grandma. Priya asked direct questions and gave Grandma time to answer. Did she want the loan? No. Did she feel pressured? Yes. Did she want Denise or Terry listed as contacts on any account? No. Did she want the bank to call Nadia if there were future attempts? Yes. Grandma answered every question clearly. Priya also asked whether Grandma felt safe at home. Grandma looked at me before answering, not because she needed permission, but because she knew I was scared of the answer. I feel safe in my house, she said. I do not feel safe with everybody having access to me. Priya understood the difference. She suggested changing the locks, updating the contact sheet, and documenting any future visits. Grandma wrote all of it down on the back of an envelope because that was what she did when life tried to get slippery. After the call, she said, I like that woman, she waits. That was how low the bar had become. A stranger waiting for Grandma to finish a sentence felt like kindness. By the end of the week, Riverstone had closed the application, filed the internal elder financial abuse report, and sent Grandma a written confirmation. No refinance, no lien, no new mortgage, no family contact without her authorization. The letter was 5 paragraphs and plain enough for anyone to understand. Denise understood it. That was why she hated it. She tried one more lender. I know because Grandma received a verification letter from a company in Michigan that had never spoken to her. We reported it, and that file died faster than the first one. Denise had thought Riverstone was the problem. She learned the problem was Grandma's no, written down in too many places to ignore. By Monday morning, Denise had sent 14 texts. None of them were apologies. They were all versions of the same sentence. Family is supposed to help family. Terry left me one voicemail saying he would lose the shop because I had made a scene. I deleted the voicemail and kept the bank report. One cousin wrote that I could have handled it privately. I wanted to ask what part of a bank loan was private after Denise brought strangers, forms, and $312,000 into it. Instead, I saved that message too. Denise posted a vague paragraph online about people who forget who raised them. She did not name me because people like Denise want sympathy without discovery. Under it, Paul commented, some people love paperwork more than blood. Grandma saw the post because Mrs. Alvarez showed it to her before thinking better of it. I expected Grandma to be hurt. She was, but she was also annoyed. Blood did not pay my mortgage, she said. Grandma changed the trusted contact form again. This time, it had no family name on Denise's line, just mine. The roof got fixed 6 weeks later with a small insurance payout and a contractor who actually came to the house twice before handing over a bill. Grandma said that was better than a miracle because it was real. The real contractor's estimate was $12,840, not $41,600, not $312,000, $12,840 with a 3-year workmanship warranty and photos of the damaged flashing. Grandma paid the deductible, the insurance covered the rest, and the west gutter stopped leaking by the first week of May. The day the crew finished, Grandma made lemonade and put it in paper cups on the porch. She did not do it because they had saved her. She did it because workers had shown up, explained the work, done the work, and billed the work without trying to own her future. One of them handed her a packet with before and after photos. Grandma counted the pages. You like paperwork? He asked, smiling. Grandma said, I like proof. I almost laughed because that was the whole story in 3 words. Terry's shop did not survive the summer. I did not celebrate that. People lost paychecks, and some of those people had nothing to do with Terry's choices. But the shop did not close because Grandma refused to save it. It closed because Terry had been using future miracles as a business plan for too long. The supplier judgment hit first. Then the equipment lender took 2 lifts. By July, the sign was gone. Denise told people I ruined him. Aunt Marla from Cleveland called to say she had heard I embarrassed my aunt in front of a bank full of strangers. I asked if Denise had mentioned the recording. She went quiet. Then she said, "No." I said, "Ask her about it." She never called back. Paul sent one last message in August. "Hope you're proud." I looked at it while sitting at Grandma's table, the same table she still polished every Saturday. Grandma was across from me, sorting coupons and humming under her breath. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator and the clock over the sink. I showed her the text. She read it, handed the phone back, and said, "I am proud enough for both of us." That was the last time Paul contacted me. Grandma met with an elder law attorney in September. I did not choose the attorney. She did. She updated her financial power of attorney, her healthcare directive, and the bank contact instructions. She kept the house in her name because she wanted to, not because she had no options. That difference mattered to her. "I do not want everyone whispering that I had to give my house away to be safe," she told the attorney. The attorney said, "Then we will write it so your choice stays yours." Grandma smiled at that. The new documents did not make a dramatic ending. They made a clean one. Denise could not call the bank. Terry could not request payoff information. Paul could not pretend he was helping. If anyone tried to open a home equity file, the branch notes would trigger a review before the first signature line. That was the thing Denise never understood. A boundary does not have to be loud to work. Sometimes it is a checkbox, a contact form, and a note scanned into the right system. She also stopped opening the door for Denise without warning me first. That part mattered to her, not the drama, the warning. 1 week after the meeting, I sat with Grandma on the front steps while the crew finished the last row of shingles. She handed me the recorder and said, "Keep that." I asked why. "Because one day Denise will tell this story like I was confused," she said. "I want proof I wasn't." I told her I already had the bank letter. She nodded. "Good, now you have 2 receipts." She kept a third one for herself, not the recorder, not the denial letter, the paid invoice for the real roof repair. She slid it into the biscuit tin beside the payoff letter from 2009. "This one says I fixed the problem without selling the house back to a bank," she said. I asked if she wanted a copy in my folder. "No," she said. "You keep the proof of what they tried. I'll keep the proof of what I did." That line stayed with me longer than anything Denise ever posted. I framed the denial letter and the trusted contact form together in my office drawer, not because I like looking at them, but because I like knowing where they are. Grandma kept the house. Denise lost access. Terry lost the money he thought he could pull out of somebody else's life. And the next time a family member told me a signature was just a formality, I remembered the sound of that little recorder on a conference room table. The house stayed in Grandma Ruth's name. The recording stayed in my drawer, and my aunt learned that a bank can hear the truth a lot faster than it can hear an excuse. That's my story. If the person in your family who reads the forms is also the one they call difficult, send this to them. Drop a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.